Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Althea. Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Althea Chan. I'm a classical pianist and teacher. Today we're going to be talking about trills. Do you find trills very hard to play evenly? Or you can't seem to play it without sounding harsh? Or does it make your hand very tense? Many years ago, I was all of those things. I couldn't play the simplest trills, and I thought I just wasn't good enough. But after years of experimenting with different techniques, I have figured out a few ways to make it easier. And today, I'd like to share it with you all. There's no one perfect way to play trills. It all depends on the context of the music. So this video is going to be split into 3 parts. In the first part, I'm going to be talking about the different types of trills. And in the second part, I'm going to be talking about the different ways of playing it and the results you will get from each one of them. The third part will be exploring ways to practice it, and I'll talk about the exercises that help and what to focus on. Everything will be time-stamped in the description below, so if there's a part you would like to skip, please feel free to do so in the timestamp. Let's get to it, shall we? So different types of trills have different lengths, tone colors, dynamics, and characters. I'm going to play you some examples from a few different pieces. The next question is, how do we create all these different sounds? So there's something I need to clarify. I'm really simplifying things here. It takes a lot of experimenting to find a way that works for your hands and the music you're playing. It's not like this is a magic pill. You do this and you get A, and you do that, you get B. Not at all. But in general, I just find that having some sort of a system or a guide and knowing exactly what my hands are doing could be helpful in my practice. So I would look at this as more of a guide to finding your own way. All right, let's get back to the ways of playing trills. We're going to start off with the trills in the Goldberg variation by Bach. For Baroque pieces, I tend to play the trills with a certain amount of clarity. When I want more clarity in the trills, I tend to engage my fingertips a lot. I call it the grip. It's kind of like trying to remove a stain on the key with my fingertips, like finger walking on the keys. What I'm doing here essentially is to activate my fingertips. Okay, the next one is the hardest in my opinion. Let's say I have to play a trill that's forte, that's loud, or a trill that has to build volume throughout. I'd engage my hand, forearm, and arm. And one very important movement here is rotation. Think of it like turning a doorknob when you try to open a door. For example, in Defia's Ritual Fire Dance, there's a very long trill with crescendo. I'd start by engaging hand rotation, then as it slowly builds, I'd extend it to my forearm and eventually my arm. I'll show you more in details in the next step when I talk about how to practice them. And if you want to listen to the whole piece, I've made a video of me learning and memorizing this piece in 2 weeks. I'll put the link in the description. Oh, I forgot to mention something that's very important. Remember that your arm has to be right behind your hand at all times, because your arm is providing support for your hand. If your arm is on one side and your hand is on the other, your hand will be left alone doing the work all by itself. As a result, your hand might get very tense and your trills will not be even. So at times, you might have to lean back a little bit so your body is not in the way of your arm, and your arm could move to where your hand is. And then the last one I'm going to talk about is a two-finger trill. You might have to use two fingers to play your trills if you have fortissimo or even fortissimo. I've never tried it myself, but it definitely looks fun. Now, when you decide on how to play your trills, it's all about balancing between these ways of playing it. Figure out what kind of a sound you're looking for, and then experiment utilizing a combination of rotation with fingertips or just arm rotation. Keep experimenting and exploring. Next, I'll show you a step-by-step guide on how to practice them using one of the examples I mentioned earlier. So the first step is choosing my fingering. This is super important. If we don't know which fingers work best, everything I do would be a waste. Second step, writing the notes out and group them. I do this step even if I think I know how to do it, because the purpose of this step is to break down the information for my brain. When my brain understands what's going on, it's much easier for my hands to execute it. Not to mention it will help with memorizing big time. Third, accent the big beats and get a feeling where the beats are. This is essentially putting the information from step 2 into action. And then once I have established a strong sense of impulse, I tone it down a bit, as in I'm still feeling the beats, but I don't necessarily accent them. Fourth, decide on what kind of tone color and character I want. I'm going to use the earlier examples to show you. For Bach's Goldberg variation, I'm looking for an articulated, more crisp kind of sound. That would require more finger independence or finger work when I play, and the grip on the fingertips I mentioned earlier in this video. And for Haydn Sonata, the character is very peaceful and quiet. So here what I'm looking for is a light and sort of fluffy sound. What I'm gonna do is hand rotation with some finger work. One thing that's important in order to create sounds like this is to feel the point where the hammer strikes the string, and never go beyond the point of just gently striking it, as if you're clinking fragile crystal glasses together. You don't want to break it, but you also want the sound to resonate. This takes some practice. When it comes to trills and the ritual fire dance, we need to build quite a bit of volume throughout the trill. What I do here is to start with just hand rotation with a little bit of finger work, and then extend the movement to hand and arm rotation. Now, on to the last one. Chopin's Nocturne. I love this piece. I hear the trills in this piece in a more melodic way. What I meant is, it's not entirely decorative. It's part of the melody. I would keep my fingers rather flat, with some finger independence, and at the same time generate a smooth motion in one direction with my hand and arm. So those were my ways of practicing trills. I hope you find it helpful. Again, there's no one perfect way of doing it. It always depends on the context of the music. The most important thing here is to never stop experimenting and exploring. You will find your system and your style. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.